Good afternoon, Big Brother fans. It is Wednesday, August 19th, day 44 in the Big Brother house, and we are on the famous, infamous, recently named within the past few years, I don't know how long we've been calling it this, Waffle Wednesday. Why Waffle Wednesday? Well, because a lot of times is when the target magically changes. And there is waffling that's been going on. The biggest decision is between Kamu and Haley going home if neither of them wins the blockbuster competition on Thursday night. So it's been Kamu's who we think has been going, but there is some kind of waffling-ish on that. I think if Angela is on the block Thursday night, that the other person will get evicted. I believe that. Pretty sure. Not 100% sure, but pretty sure. The major issues that went on, the major things that went on since I last talked to you were a fun thing, which was a hot dog incident where Devins had made himself some macaroni and cheese and a couple of hot dogs, but was getting called to the diary room. So he eventually had to just leave them sitting and go into the diary room. And Drew and Barrett and Yash and Melody, I think that's kind of the sum of them, they decided, and Drew's the one that I think that first threw out the idea, that someone should run down, because they were up in the head of household room, someone should run downstairs and take a bite out of his hot dog. And then they wouldn't tell him who did it, right? So they wanted to pull a prank. And fairly quickly, Barrett jumped up and did it. Ran downstairs, took a bite out of his hot dog in front of the camera so they could see it upstairs, ran back upstairs, and then they waited for Devins to come back out. It took a while, by the way. Took him a while, and then when he eventually saw it, he's just like, all right, who did it? Who took it out? And he said, I bet it was Dee. And Dee's like, it wasn't me. And Dee had seen Barrett running up the stairs, so I think she knew it was Dee. Or so I'm sure, I think Dee knew that it was Devins. And Devins just carried on, like, well, I'm just gonna work on making my food, like reheating everything, and he did. And he sat down, took a bite of the sandwich that already had a bite out of it, just stuck it in his mouth, which later on Taylor said she would have never done that. But it was kind of like, yep. And I think she also said at the same time, he's a dad, he doesn't care. So he's been called that several times by Taylor specifically, like, you're messing with a dad. Dads aren't as easy to mess with. So I think one of them, Yash or Devins or somebody, decided, let's go down and line up in front of him and tell him that he can guess which one of us did it, but if he guesses wrong, he'll never know again, or he'll never know. So they did that. They lined up, the four of them lined up kind of, in zombie or clone or robot fashion, whatever you want to call it, and they walked down, stood in front of him. He said it's the Hot Dog Inquisition, I think, is where everybody came up with the name. And they all walked down and stood in front of him, and he talked for a second, and they said, if you guess, we'll admit it, but if you don't guess, you'll never know. And so he goes down the list, and he eventually guesses Yash, and Yash immediately turns and runs up the stairs, which everybody else then follows him, and he just kind of, Devins theatrically, raises his arms out to his side, looks up in the air, and just screams, no! It's all going to make good TV if it gets on the TV. But we've had other things happen that haven't made the TV, so who the heck knows? So Devins continues eating his meal, and a few minutes later, they decide to go back down again and make him a replacement hot dog. And they do it. The four of them huddled up in a corner of the kitchen working, and at one point Drew said we should all turn around and look at him, and they all turn around and look at him, and it was funny. It was well done. Devins is sitting there. If I said Drew, I meant Devins eating his hot dog. Devins is then at one point holding his milk up to his mouth, kind of hiding behind the cup and going, tell my kids I love them. Like, this is just all strange. I don't know what's going on. And the last time they turn around back to their food prep for him, he probably assumed he knew what they were doing, but he wasn't sure. And Devins, at just the right moment, sinks down and climbs under the dining room table. And it has a big enough base that you can't see that he's underneath it. It's blocked from their view. And so when they finally finish the hot dog, they turn around, they go, oh, he's gone. Now, they don't know where he went. And so the four of them holding the plate all together carry the plate to the back bedrooms looking for him, and they realize he's not there. Then they look in the storage room. I think they first looked in the bathroom. But anyways, Devins is under the kitchen table this whole time. And when they go to the back bedrooms, he climbs back out and sits back down and proceeds to continue eating like he was never gone. And they the reaction was expected, like, how did he do that? Where'd he go? Where were you? Or he wasn't answering them. But they gave him the hot dog. We missed the audio cutout, so we missed what they said. I think they said, will you forgive us or something, but we didn't hear it. And he looked at them, and they dropped the plate, and they started heading back up the stairs like they were going to run again, and Devins yells, wait, and then he just shoves 3/4 of the hot dog in his mouth, starts chewing on it, and he's like, you can go, or something. It was funny. Part of it's that you had to be there. I've posted the entire thing, everything I described to you, on Blue Sky. Others posted it elsewhere as well, and on Blue Sky as well. So it's out there if you haven't seen it. In case it doesn't make the TV show, it's worth checking out. It's one of the funner pranks. Devins even said it was one of the best days, one of the best things happened, since they've been in there. He just enjoyed it. He enjoyed the silliness of it. So that happened. Then, personally, I was watching the Our Reality podcast on YouTube with Nick and Zach and Roxy, who are all friends of Barrett's, and Barrett formerly has done that podcast. And then they had Sharon Tharp was on as a guest. So it was fun to listen to them, chat with them while they were doing it and everything, talking about the house in general as well as Barrett in particular. But they do spend a lot of time just summarizing what's gone into the house. They are not just talking about Barrett, because they've always been a podcast that talks about the shows. So that was fun to watch. And while I was doing that, apparently there was this big kerfuffle, and yes, I used the word kerfuffle, with Lala and Angela and Taylor, and I'm not sure yet. I haven't even sorted it out, but the gist of it seemed to be Angela ended up crying about something or other, like maybe she's targeting someone that she's not targeting. And I know trust me, I've seen it out there. You're not missing much, because they didn't even show the Lala Haley fight that happened on Friday. So they may not even show this. And if they do, they'll show it better than I'm going to explain it. And I don't think it's a game-changing thing, other than it kind of shows relationships. And what it showed was that Taylor is, in some ways, very tired of working with Latrice because she feels she has to manage her so much. And after this thing, Angela crying and everything, Taylor kind of read the riot act to Latrice, like, you can't say things, you can't do things, why are you doing this? And that upset Latrice, and she ended up talking to Angela again, but she said, I can't tell you anything, I'm not allowed, and so it was an interesting moment, but it does show how Taylor is getting tired of trying to manage Latrice. That was the biggest takeaway from that, I think. And finally, Mallory and Melody got a lot of talking to yesterday, talked at, depending on how you look at it, by Yash and Kamu. They're trying to pull them into their side to go against the vets. And remember, Mallory and Melody, along with, in theory, Drew and Barrett, were just pulled in with the vets to form the mosh pit. Of course, Drew and Barrett were already in the crossover alliance, and so they were already in it. And Mallory and Melody, for some reason, did not know that, had no idea. And so they're a bit suspicious of the vets and getting brought in, and they now realize that Drew and Devins were already working with them. And they're kind of annoyed with Drew and Devins, because why didn't you tell us you were working with them? So that's created some cracks in the alliances. And we're not sure. We're not sure what that's going to mean in the long term. So we'll have to check it out and see what's if that causes a rift, if it causes the voting. Melody has talked about wanting to possibly keep Camus over Angela. I'm not sure that's actually going to happen. I just stalled my car. That's good. I was at my mailbox, so we're good. But that's kind of the ins and outs of what's going on. And we'll fill you in more tomorrow when we know exactly who is targeted to go home. But it's probably, at this point, Camus if it's Camus versus Angela, Haley if it's Haley versus Angela, and Camus if it's Camus versus Haley. But that's the one that's iffy-ish maybe. We'll have to see. I'll let you know tomorrow for sure. Thanks for listening. Thanks for your support. If you listen to my podcast, Mark, and it's the Mark that I'm talking to that left me a Covey donation today. Thank you very much. And I thanked you directly in email, but I wanted to thank you again on my podcast because it's appreciated. Anybody else is interested in donating or becoming a patron? I need to thank all my patrons. I'm going to do that tomorrow. You can reach out on Ko-fi. If you know what the Ko-fi, there's links on my Patreon, not Patreon, on my, oh my gosh, I'm having a morning. There's links on my Blue Sky page to the Ko-fi or my Linktree page. There's so many links and places to go and everything. Or you can just reach out to me directly in email. I'll help you. If you really want to donate, I'd love to take a little donation from you. I appreciate all of you, though. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Bye-bye.